Project for today is going to be working on this John Deere 317 again. I'm going to upgrade the tires on it. If you watch the race mower video, I had to pull the race mower back with this, and these rear tires don't work too good out in the snow and stuff. So, and the front tires, they're pretty much bald, and this one's got a great big crack in it. That one definitely needs to be replaced. I've got these snowblower tires that I'm going to put on it, and this will get a lot better traction in the snow and stuff. And then I've got these ATV tires to put on the back. They're already on mower rims and they had chains on them when I got them this way, so we're going to put those on. And then I've got this John Deere 265 that I bought just as it sits. There was no mower deck or snowblower or anything for it, but I do have a lawnmower deck for it and not a snowblower, so I'm going to steal these wheel weights off of it because you really don't need those for regular mowing. So we're going to take those off and swap those over also, so we'll have the chains and the weights and all four better tires, so this thing should be pretty good for off-road stuff more than it is now. So I'll get you set up and we'll get started, but first we'll pull those front tires off. We'll do those and then we'll do the rears last. So these just have a 15mm bolt holding the front wheels on. There's a washer in there. That stuff's a little bit sloppy. So we'll get that over to the tire changer and we'll let the air out and break the bead on it. This one does have a tube in it. We'll probably try to reuse that tube. I usually don't like to reuse them, but this one was holding air for about 6 months now that I've had it, so hopefully it's still a decent tube in there. I've got other videos on actually changing the tires, so I'll probably speed through the actual tire change part. And then if I run into anything interesting, I'll slow it down and show you what's going on, but it's kind of more of the same. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight tire changer. I mainly just use the bead breaking part of it. If you want to see a more in-depth video on actually changing the tires, I have another John Deere 316 front tire upgrade video. I'll put a link in the description. You can watch that one if you want. Otherwise, this kind of gets to be repetitive. So this one's being stubborn and I can't get the bead to break with that bead breaker, so I'm going to use one of these clamp-on bead breakers. Usually these little tires, you don't really have to do that, but this one seems really rusted. So I'm thinking that's why I'm not able to get it. But these clamp-on ones, they kind of rarely fail. These will usually get that. It's a lot more work a lot of the time. They do make air-powered ones, but for most of the stuff I do, I'm not needing anything that heavy duty. So it kind of just clamps on like that. And it's got a little leg that pushes down as you're spinning this. I've tried to use the impact on it before, but it's hard on the threads and stuff in there, so I don't really like to use that. You pretty much just have to use a wrench. Even that seemed like it was just sliding down. The tire, I might have to try it in a couple different spots. There, I finally got it. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but a whole bunch of powdered rust came flying out of it when it finally broke. That's usually the case with these older tires. They get moisture in there and it causes it to rust to the rim. Plus these tires it's pretty old and just kind of rotten, so it's so pliable that it just slips down with the bead breaker without getting any grip on it. I'll get the other side broke and then we'll get to putting the new tire on there after we clean up the rim a little bit. This is something you don't see too often. The tube is rusted right to the actual rim. It's like it's glued on there. So I don't think we'll be reusing this tube. You can see that it's just peeling off of there with moisture and rust underneath. So I'll probably end up putting a new tube in it. And this tire was definitely rotten. It's so soft. It's amazing it actually still held air and didn't just have stuff just poke through it super easily, as rotten as it is. Well, I got it off of there and the rim doesn't look too bad. And there's right here, the valve stem was actually rusted right to the rim. I ended up having to pound it out of there, so I wrecked the valve stem on that tube. But that tube was pretty well shot anyway with how stuck it was to the rim. So I'm going to take a wire wheel and we'll clean up all this rust on the rim, and then we'll finally be able to start putting the other tire on. Well, I got the rim cleaned up. It's still pitted pretty good around that valve stem. You can see in here, but the wire wheel kind of smoothed out the edges that might poke the tube or anything, so this should be fine. If this was actually going to be put together without a tube in it, I would be a little bit worried about this rim being that rusted, but it should be fine for putting a tube in. And it's not like it's got a ton of weight on it. It's not like it's on like a truck or something. I wouldn't want to use a rim that's pitted quite that bad. Well, now we'll get to throwing that tire on there. Now we're on to side number 2. Well, I got the second tire done. These were on, so the valve stem was on the inside, but I really don't like when they're like that, so I'm just going to put it on the outside. It seems like it'll work either direction. And we'll throw a little fresh grease in them too while we're at it. I'd say that's quite the upgrade on the front tires. Now we'll jack up the back and we'll get started changing those rears. Kind of strange, it's got a metric 15mm bolt in the front holding on, but then the rears are 11/16. I tried a 17mm on them, which usually is pretty close equivalent, and that didn't work, or it was a little bit too small. I'm not sure which way I'll have to put these on. These rims are pretty rusty. I was gonna paint them, but then I got to thinking that the wheel weights are gonna cover everything, so that looks like that'll work. I didn't really want to have to put them on backwards since the treads are going this direction. Kind of feels like the threads are a little bit buggered up on this one lug nut. We'll see. That lug nut wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It just had to get past a little bit of a bad spot. So now we'll swap this side and then we'll start putting the wheel weights on. Now I'm going to pull these wheel weights off of here. These ones do have just regular bolts running through them, so I might have to hold the backside with a wrench. I did manage to get that without putting a wrench on the back. These really should have a washer in there. They don't. There's a lock washer, but that's not really doing much in that plastic. And you can see it's just got a regular bolt. I'll have to get a pry bar that's kind of stuck in there. Usually they don't take much to break them loose. There, we got one out of there. And we'll go do the same on the other side and get them swapped over. This can be a little bit difficult to get on there sometimes. These actually have a longer weight for how this rim is. So I'm gonna have to find a longer bolt to go through there, because they're gonna stick out a ways here. I think what we're hitting on is the, well, I might just have to line up the studs. This might be what we hold me back. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find some longer bolts to fit through there. So I didn't film it because the furnace was running and I didn't think you needed to see me swap tires again, but I took these off and spun them around and moved them side to side so the tread is still facing forward. These rims are dished in deeper on this side so the wheel weight will fit better. Other than that, I was going to try to make some longer bolts out of some threaded rod, but it just ended up sticking out way too far and I didn't like it, so I flipped them around. We have a little bit different stance now for how the tires stick out, but I think it'll be fine. Everything seems to clear. So now we'll have the valve stems on the inside is the only thing, which I don't really care for, but this should fit a lot better now. Just gotta line up our studs and the bolt holes, which is not the easiest thing. There we go. I think that is the spot. I've got some flat washers to put in here this time because it didn't have anything. The lock washer was kind of sinking into the plastic, so I didn't like that. So that should be that one. And that one went through. And get the impact and see if we can get that to suck in. That's about as tight as it'll go. These rims just aren't dished in as much, or they're not as wide. So you can see we have a little bit of a gap here, but they're still solid on there, and that inner part fit tight inside the rim so the weight isn't just held on by these bolts. It's kind of almost acts like a hub centric rim. That's how these kind of get held in. This is basically just holding it against the rim, not really the weight on the bolts. So we'll go do that to the other side and the tire part of this will be done. Well, I've got it out back and we're gonna see if we could do a little hill climb with it over here, see how much better these tires perform. I should have done it before and after, but I know I wouldn't even been able to get out here hardly with those other tires and no wheel weights. So I've still got to paint up our lift hitch we made there. I think I like the way it is now enough that I'll actually paint it up and finalize it. And this is shaping up to be a nice little tow rig, I think. So I'll get you set up and we'll go see what we can do on that hill. Well, we made it up that. It's still a one-wheel wonder. I don't have a posi rear end or anything, so it's spun the one tire, but with a little bit of speed we made it. The next one's a little bit tougher. We'll see if we can make that. Well, we spun out a little bit, but we made it up both of those. So it seems like it might be running out of gas now, so I'm going to run it back to the shop quick. Well, I'm pretty happy with how that performed. We increased our max speed on the thing too. I'm not sure what it exactly was stock. I'll have to look that up, but I'll put a picture on the screen here of the GPS that I had on. I was curious how much faster it'd be. These tires are almost 4 inches taller than the original ones, so that gains you some speed. With these hydrostatics, you're not going to gain much speed anyway else other than putting the bigger tires on it, just because you can't really pulley swap them or anything, and this is a direct drive anyway, so you're not going to do that. But that's not really what I'm after on this one. It's more, I want it to be a tow rig for if I break down out back, or I got dead machines around here I want to pull in and out of the shop. It works good for that. But I'd say we got quite an upgrade in the front and rear tires on this thing. It's kind of a work in progress, but if I have anything else I'm going to add to it, I'll keep you guys updated. I think I'm going to put like a four-wheeler rack here with like a toolbox or something, because there's no toolbox on this to haul anything, so that's already been a pain when I wanted to put my tripod on there to haul it out back with me. So, but that's going to do it for this one. If you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.